Hello, my name is Hannah. I'm a current developer on Steam Dreams, and I worked on this overlay canvas that you see here. And I'm currently including stuff that's going to be part of our vertical slice, but if I'm not the person building out this UI further, I would like to make it as easy as possible for you via this video. So when, let's say that you're going and adding another element of this, which you probably will end up doing because there's other elements if it's not me. Um, I tried to make what already exists as scalable as possible. So if you can follow these procedures when going about making these new menu bars, it should work. I mean, you'll have to set up the new stuff for the screens and whatever, but it should work as far as switching tabs. Um, so the way that this is handled is if, let's say you were going to make a new item, you would just go in and duplicate this item because then you can use the setup that exists there. You might need to move it a little bit to make it sit nicely. But just duplicate one of those. And then I have stored these elements via a custom class. And that custom class is super simple because custom classes are new to me. So I'm not super confident. So I kept it super simple. So it just stores a game object. It stores, and that is we're going to be modifying. It stores whether or not the variable is on. We're not going to be modifying that, even though it is a public variable. And that whole class is serialized. We're not going to be modifying that. I guess theoretically you could, but the script is going to be modifying that largely. And then type is another one that we're going to be modifying. So the reason why we're going to be modifying those two is because this is how we're going to be able to get the variables that we want to be able to use in Unity to communicate with custom classes. Because, so this is an event trigger. I did this a funky way. This is just a button. So think of this as a button that I did funnily. Um, I have plans for it, which is why I used event trigger, but think of this as a button. So if I were to make the parameter for this click bar, and this click bar runs whenever you click stuff on this bar. If I were to make the parameter a top bar component, a custom class, I could not assign it in the inspector. And I want to be able to assign it in the inspector for many reasons. One, but the main one is just it's easiest for me to use here. So what I'm doing is remember that type, the string type. So you will be in when you assign things here, just write the same word that you see here. It's going to convert it all to lowercase, so it doesn't matter there is no case sensitivity with it. Um, so yeah, so you duplicate this item, you add it into here. So that's just literally dragging crystals into there, and then you write crystals there because it probably, oh, okay, it'll show up with crystals as default, but so then literally just write that same thing. And the only other thing, it should be able to do this cool switching thing on its own. The only thing that you'll need to do from there, other than just like duplicating that variable or that game object and then dragging in the variables, is add another case to the switch statements. So let's say you were bringing in characters, you would just do, oopsies, you would just do case characters, right? And the reason why you would do that is because, as you see, um, so this is maps, but when I'm in here, maps doesn't open, right? That's because I haven't set it up yet, so I will eventually have that set up. So by the time that you're looking at this, future person looking at this video, this will be set up in there. And I have this just empty method or these two empty methods. So you'll need to add that to the switch statements and then make your own methods for opening that stuff. But it should be as easy as just turning on and off some game objects. And I'll make an update video if I update the logic to the turning on and off. Um, So yeah, that's that for how to use this. Make sure that if you're modifying stuff like this, that you are doing so in prefab mode. Do not add things outside of prefab mode because if you were to add something right here, it wouldn't save to the prefab. Um, it would only save to that one instance of the prefab, and then you'd go into other scenes and be like, where the heck is the rest of my menu? And it's just kind of a pain in the butt to have to go. You can manually add it, but it's a pain. So try to work in prefab mode if you can remember. And yeah, so that's the first half of the video. And then the second half, I just wanted to uh, generally for developers right now, I wanted to go over debug.logs and how they're helpful in debug.logs versus debug.log warning. So debug.log and debug.log warning shows up two different ways to the console. So these are debug.logs. They're very not alarming. Debug.log warning is this. So this is kind of like, to me, this is like severity of the issue. So these little comments are mostly going to be our own debugs. These warnings are going to be uh, Unity warnings that may not break it, are warnings that may not break it, just good information that something might be going wrong, but not necessarily game breaking. And this is usually game breaking. Um, Not always, but yeah. Um, so debug.log warning will print as a warning. I like to use these for things that I'm leaving for future developers because I think that if I left it just as a debug.log for future developers, it would get blurred with all of the other debugs if developers are making debugs. Because if you see, and granted, we could collapse this and not have it get crazy like that. Um, but your console gets clogged up. So that's why debug.log warning is helpful for leaving stuff for future developers. Because it'll stand out. So I left two different notes for future developers. So this I left the default case to explain to developers that uh yeah, to explain this. Just, a little helpful thing saying what's happening and where you can check. And I did the same thing with this. Um, so yeah, that's debug.log warnings. Debug.log are helpful and I'm going to delete them before I push anything. Um, and the way that they are helpful is, uh, oops. So I was having issue because again, custom classes and using custom classes in Unity is new to me. So I was using them to check, one, make sure that this click was even registered because things were going wrong and I couldn't quite pinpoint. So one, check to make sure that this click even registered. Two, check to make sure that um, uh, the component that we've found is actually equal to this component name. And then three, making sure that it is registering whether it is a new component or not, and or newly clicked component. And by that I mean it's not going to print that debug again if I click maps again because we're already on maps, right? Um, so just checking that kind of stuff and being able to check um, if you have an idea for what might be going wrong for something, or something's not working fully and you want to go like, is this method even running? This is one of my favorite debugs. Just, see if a method's running because it'll print beans to the console if it's running and it won't if it's not. Um, so debugs are super helpful. Debug.log warnings are super helpful for uh, programmers who are going to be using your stuff in the future. It just helps future programmers figure out what you're doing. If you want to use them, if you don't, that's fine too. If you don't want to use debug.logs, that's fine too. But yeah, so I hope this was helpful. Good luck. Have fun.